quick talk from my bedroom floor. I'm reading Esther 2, and so there were a couple things that I just thought were kind of neat. So, the big thing, right, is that because of Vashti's actions, because of her opinions, because of her own feelings, she's taken out, and then the women are chosen, the virgins are seeked out, and therefore Esther is allowed to be put in her place. Essentially, um, kind of a big piece of this that I got from reading it yesterday from Esther 1 was that even though people may not see what God's doing, or it may not seem obvious what God's doing, God is still going to work in it. But going into this, um, two things that I kind of thought was interesting was obviously Esther and Mordecai's relationship, right? So Esther loses her parents. We don't know how. All we know is that Mordecai steps up um, to be her father figure, and so this is, I think, is such a good example of I mean, of just men doing what God calls them to do, which is to step up. When Esther didn't have her family, she steps up, and we see it all throughout the Old Testament. We see men who don't step up, we see men who fall, and then we see the men who step up into a place that it matters. And not only that, but he's looking out for her. He's constantly giving her advice. He's always um, walk in front of the harem's courtyard to learn this, to learn how Esther was doing and to see what was happening to her. So he's always checking in on her. Even though he's not necessarily her birth father, he is like her dad. And not only that, but she's obedient to it. She goes, I'm gonna trust you." She sees the kind of man that he is, and she responds and she goes, "Yeah, I think you're right. So I'm gonna trust you." And this, I think that's a cool part of Esther's personality, is that she's she's just kind of thrown into this. This isn't something like, it doesn't say she wants to be in it. She doesn't, like, this isn't a goal. She doesn't have some ulterior motive. It's just, this is the life that she was given. Um, and she's rolling with it. She's willing to work with it, and she's willing to trust it. And we also see another piece of her personality in talking, which is and it says, where's the actual line? Um um she won more favor and approval from him than any of the other virgins. Um Esther gained favor in the eyes of everyone who saw her, which is similar to King David, which I was reading Samuel, so obviously that's in my mind. And talking about a godly person, there's something that God does. There's something, we see it now, like, you can tell when the Holy Spirit's moving, and God has given different people gifts of, like, when there's something different about you, when God is working through you, it's visible, and it's not always we don't always notice them, we don't always pinpoint it that it's God moving in them, but I do think that God has a certain way within people that we are naturally drawn to. We're drawn to the light, right? And so I think that that's just a cool little thing. And not only, but then also another part of Esther's situation is patience, right? So it talks about this during the year before each woman's turn to King Ahasuerus. The harem regulation required her to receive beauty treatments with oil and myrrh for 6 months, then with perfumes and cosmetics for another 6 months. When the young woman go to the king, she was given whatever requested to take with her from the harem to the palace. She would go in the evening, and in the morning she would return to the second harem under the supervision of the king eunuch. She never went to the king again unless he desired her and summoned her by name. So you have a year of them having to be patient. Basically, their entire life of all these women is dependent on someone else. They have literally no control. They are completely under the king and his regime's management and dictation of their value, of their worth, of what they do, of their life situation. And that's it. That's all they can do. And so you see Esther in this moment. I mean, we don't actually see it, but you can imagine like that's rough. And she was taking and then she was taken to King Ahasuerus in the palace in the 10th month of the month of Tebeth in 7th reign year. And so we don't know how long how long it was before that. Oh, in the year before each young woman's turn. So they didn't even get to go right away. They had to go a year of waiting, of preparing basically before they're called up. At least that's how I interpret it. Like imagine having to wait a year of just basically waiting until your turn to have somebody else continue to dictate what you do. I mean, the patience to just keep going and also to like not get overly jealous, not to fight people, not to now we don't know what happened during this time, obviously, but we like you have to be a patient person, and I think that that's kind of what, especially what it's saying is like you'll be put into place, and when God puts you into place, and so and He does, and God puts her into that place, of becoming queen, but it takes time. And in that time, you're just kind of, sometimes you have to be prepped. Sometimes you got to be ready for it. Same thing with David. David and Abraham and Moses and Noah and the 12 disciples. And Jesus waited 30 years. And I mean, and we still, as Christians, are waiting for Jesus to come back. So we're still in the waiting period, right? So I think it's just, once again, another story of patience. And humility of saying, you know what, I'm going to respect. She obeyed Mordecai's orders, right? This understanding of respect and love, and that going, okay, I'm going to respect and love you. And we also see Mordecai, and another aspect, we see Mordecai not step up again as a man. He hears of this bad thing that's happening, and even though we hear this, the king eunuch and the king's eunuchs are gonna try to kill the king, and so Mordecai goes, no, don't. And because Mordecai listens and tells Esther, and because Esther listens, it saves the king's life, which is then a continuation of what God is going to do in the future, and God's plan always comes to fruition. So Mordecai's obedience, along with Esther's obedience, ends up helping to protect the Israelite people later in the story. And so it's just this cool, everything's connected. Like, it's easy to see all these little pieces. I know this story, so I've seen the VeggieTales a million times, but it's really cool to see that kind of connection. Yeah, but that was kind of my little takeaway from it.